Hi, and welcome back. Our last video was about the Around the Americas project, the why we're doing that, the how we're doing that, when we're doing that. This video is about how we actually do that, how we make it around the Americas, how you sail around the Americas 27,000 miles in 14 months. So you might imagine a 27,000 mile trip takes quite a boat. Your lives depend on this boat, timing depends on this boat. You want to be reasonably comfortable and safe. So it took some shopping to find a boat that seemed to fit all of our needs and carry a crew of 5 or 6, has a 6-foot draft, has a good propulsion system, and is safe on deck to operate. But it's a 30-year-old boat, and a 30-year-old boat needs some upgrades. It's been sailed a lot. It's been in the South Pacific, New Zealand, Australia, South America. So with those miles on it, to modernize it and make it do what we need it to do in the period of time required a pretty extensive refit and update and upgrade. We'll go inside and talk about that.
Okay, well, you saw the boat out there and Mark here. So we put this together. The Seattle Boat Show asked us to do a thing about the project, which we had the video on, and another one about the boat, because people at boat shows are always interested in buying boats.
Interested in boats.
Yes, and fixing up boats, which is what we do at Marine Tech. Done several big projects. And so I do appreciate you and your business partner there, the project director, Jennifer, sharing with us and all the people about the cost and why you picked the boat and stuff, because that's kind of personal, but I think it's important.
Sure it is. I mean, anyone who's shopped or has a boat knows that there's a personal decision involved in every boat purchase. It's something you want to do. There's something you like about it. In our case, we had a project in mind to redo the route of the 2009-10 Around the Americas expedition. It was time to do it again with more modern equipment. So we wanted a platform that could handle 27,000 miles over 15 months, something like that, 50 ports of call, 12 different countries, in situations that you can only imagine.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can't imagine.
Yeah.
So it was important to get a boat that would handle well, would meet our needs, would be comfortable and safe. And we found a hull and a shape that would do that. And then there's the matter of what do you do with equipment on a 30-year-old boat?
30-year-old boat, yeah. So One Ocean, there it is. Custom Bob Perry design. Super neat boat. Built down by Westerly Yachts, and they did a pretty good job. Very good job, I think, because we've taken it apart completely.
I think we found things that they weren't sure anybody would ever see again.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty familiar with Perry designs. I've sailed 2 of them around the world, and I like how they handle. They stayed together. They performed very well, and this is a continuation of that. It's a little longer than a Valiant 47, little bit different underbody, but essentially all the same, different stern, but a very nice boat.
I think you and Jennifer did pick a very good boat. And I know you looked at a bunch of them before you did it. Why didn't you just buy a new boat?
Well, a new boat for what we want to do would have been upwards of 750 to $1.5 million.
I bet at least.
At least. I mean, and I was pretty out of touch with what those things were. So shopping the used market, I've been involved in some other boat refits, and it's a good way to customize a platform that you like, the platform you think will work. So I wasn't really afraid of that. And then I met you.
Yeah. Well, and I think we also should note that most production boats aren't built for this type of expedition, right? You don't see these at boat shows. They got a big queen walk around bed in the back, right? And they're made for 4 people or whatever, or they have 3 toilets, or, they're just designed a whole lot differently.
Yeah, they're designed a lot for comfort, and a lot of things need to be added for safe, long passages at sea.
Yeah.
So I was happy if we had to customize some things. And this is tried and true, so I didn't have any question about how it would handle out in the water. But it's a crew with some specific research agendas and teaching agendas, educational agendas, and we want it to be successful. It's a long trip, and you don't want to get halfway through and have something bad happen.
Exactly. So you did pick a good boat. She's fast. She's seaworthy.
It was affordable. It actually
In the big scheme of things,
In the
yes.
big scheme of things, it was affordable. I think the current market value of the boat when we bought it, in a perfect world, if you had to rebuild it then, was well north of $500,000. It was probably more like 700. We bought the boat, negotiated a bit. A nice brokerage in Seattle, Swiftsure Yachts.
Swiftsure did a great job.
Did a great job with us, and I wasn't, but they did a very good job with us. $240,000 was the price out the door at the end of the day. We negotiated with the previous owners on some equipment that had to be changed or had worn out. That was all done amicably, and we then had a list of things that we knew we had to change. Wanted to change.
And that's when you and I started talking.
That's when you and I started.
Generator, engine. But the boat actually had a lot of great stuff, along with good bones and design. It had a super good Dodger already and Bimini, right?
That we, with a center cockpit boat that met a main salon with good visibility and a steering station, safe cockpit. This is the first boat that I've had that's a Ketch rig. So I'm learning about a Ketch rig, the mizzen mast, but
it's in the way all the time.
Well, and that's working to our advantage.
But the heater, this is before I got invited to go up north, but now that I'm going up through the ice with you guys.
Great heater, hurricane heater.
Great heater. And
domestic hot water and
all of that.
Heats the engine and does all of those things, and a tidy package.
The galley is really good at sea. It's a good design, and it had awesome refrigerator, freezer. We didn't have to do any work with that.
It's located in the right place. It's down low. It's just right at the mast. It's an easy galley to work in conditions that are, pretty boisterous. It also has watertight bulkheads. How many production boats do you find that have built-in crash bulkheads at both ends of the boat?
Pretty rare. Yeah, it's got that one in the aft. It's got one in the forward.
Yeah.
And the center cockpit, it all really, I think, is lending itself to a great choice for the expedition. You and your friend Jim did some other modifications.
This is thanks to Jim Rard. So the last time we were in the Northwest Passage, we had a steel boat. So everybody thinks, a steel boat can go anywhere. When you think of a steel boat, think of a Coca-Cola can. I mean, it can be punctured really easily. So you're not going to push ice around. There's going to be abrasion. You're going to have nicks and scratches. You're going to go into so many different ports and docks. So this had a little sort of a rubber bumper piece and some divots and dings. So this now has a beautiful stainless steel. We call it the ice guard. It means that there's some abrasion resistance. We added another anchor roller. There was only one, and thanks to Jim
and I got to say on my own boat that up the inside passage, we hit logs every now and then.
Sure.
Debris. There's stuff. So it's got multi-purpose.
Oh,
there's all sorts of stuff in the ocean to run into, apparently.
Yes. So the steering was another, having an inside steering station, for some people it sounds like, well, maybe, why do you need that? Well, on long passages, when it's really cold out or when it's really stormy, the inside steering station is terrific. The outside steering station almost feels like you're inside because of a beautiful Dodger. Mm-hmm. Very handy, able to work. The winches are all there. They're electric winches. One of which you'll see in a little bit, but was up on the deck and not so handy, so we moved it.
And they're independent. I am a redundant person. I like extras. The what if something quits, and so those two systems are completely separate. Hydraulic for the inside, traditional cables on the outside, and there's an emergency tiller. So I think we're going to be able to steer the boat almost under any circumstance.
But as you phrased that, it may not be the best to call yourself a redundant person.
It's there.
But you have 3 ways to steer, and it is terrific.
This is Rob from NavPod, boat neighbor, great guy, hooked us up. Before, what do you have, a cell phone out at the outside helm station?
We had it, yeah. There was a cell phone, a little holder for a phone. And if you wanted to see the screen, the navigation screen, you had to sort of crane your neck and peer around down below. And
I can't see that far.
No, you can't see that far. So we've added helm station navigations. We've added a pod unit for the apparent wind and true wind and speed and all that stuff over.
And more where the crew can see it.
Yeah, the crew can see it. And if it's right just back there by the wheel, honestly, on the long passages, you're not doing a lot of wheel steering unless something is broken. That's the autopilot or a wind vane if you have one or some other method. But you're not back there a lot.
So we'll be able to see all that. Here's some more of our safety. This is all about just having a nice, safe boat. And that winch, which was down on the deck by the main mast.
Yeah, it was for us, it was in a bad location, because anytime you've got to leave the cockpit to go do anything with the mainsail or halyards or anything else, you're getting out of the cockpit. You've got to harness up. You've got to be on a tag line. You think about this at night or in crummy weather, and you're leaned over that winch up on the deck where you really don't want to be.
Yeah.
So we moved that winch back, put it in this cockpit. All of the lines have been organized, and they'll come back from the bottom of the mast, from the base of the mast, into that location.
So
theoretically, reefing should all be done from right there. There are windows in the top of the Dodger so you can actually see. And I'm sure there'll be times when you have to do something else, but in the middle of the night, you don't want to have a crew not thinking about how to be safe and leave the cockpit.
safe. So yeah, and that's an electric Harkin. There's 3 electric winches, the 2 primaries in that one. And so Marine Tech students got some authentic learning there to move the relay for the winch and all the cabling, and we remounted a couple of new switches there, and so that's super nice addition.
Well, the other thing it does, it gives you a chance to look at that equipment. Those winches are important. They're key to making everything work, and it's a good thing to take them apart. I don't think those have been apart for 30 years.
Yeah, everything's been taken apart and cleaned and lubed and fixed and whatever. Here's one of this wasn't the boat you sailed around on, but there's a example of the underbody of this Bob Perry. So
yeah, we're slightly different. It's a little deeper rudder. The keel extends a little bit further aft, but it's still external lead down low in the keel. And the shape, I found the shape of that boat in the Southern Ocean, well, really in any conditions, but in some just huge conditions, the boat was relatively dry. It tracked well. I felt safe. And it really handled. I mean, this was a different deal. I was alone, but
but you and Jennifer did take this boat.
And
went up to Haida Gwaii and got out on the ocean in 35 knots of crazy wind and made sure that it tracked and sailed well, and it did perform very well. So before we started and poured all the money into it, you knew that you were going to be happy.
Very happy with its performance, and now I'm happy with the graphics.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Jennifer.
Thanks to Jennifer. Jennifer designed all of the graphics, all the logo and everything else. And, this is an research and education trip. And so you want to attract attention. You want to let people know what it's about. And that does it right off the bat.
Yeah.
But again, we said earlier, the cost out the door from Seattle Yachts was $240,000.
From Swiftsure. From
Swiftsure, sorry.
That's all right. But so was $240, and then we're going to ask the people at Seattle Boat Show to estimate what it cost back in 1995 dollars, and sounds cheap. It was only $485,000, but in 1985, I think that was still a lot of money back then.
It was a lot of money, and the person who bought the boat, I've seen his correspondence with Bob Perry. Had some specific ways that he wanted the boat. He had a family, needed to be safe. So there it is.
Yeah, I'm guessing at least 1.5 to 2.5. I've tried looking around a little bit, and boats are expensive of this caliber, for sure.
Yeah, so that means in looking at that, I'm making money now.
Yeah, I think so. So here's the thing we did at Marine Tech is what all did the refit include, and it's essentially everything. It was taking the rig off. We'll break all these down, but work on the sails, the engine and transmission, generator was replaced, water maker, lots of electrical, bow thruster, science equipment. And then we've been asked, why do you have to have a bow thruster? And the thing is, when you're stopping at over 50 ports and you're on a schedule, you should never sail to a schedule, because it's going to be windy, and you don't have an option necessarily if you've got a classroom full of students expecting you to be there to wait out a day or two to dock because it's windy. So it's going to be helpful and hopefully a little safer for getting the boat around in our crew. So I was pleased you decided to add a thruster.
I'm pleased that we decided to add a thruster. It probably is one of those things I wasn't thinking about when we got the boat, but it makes a huge difference in really crowded marinas. As anybody you don't want to damage that boat, you don't want to damage anybody else's. So The boat got wheeled into your facility,
Yeah.
completely unexpected. I mean, when we bought the boat, we knew a lot of things had to happen, but we hadn't decided how that was going to happen. We didn't have really the budget.
And you had been here
Yeah.
right after your last expedition and talked to all the Marine Tech students. And we do stuff like this, and not just for anybody. It's because we believe in the expedition and what you're doing, and so and authentic learning for our students. And we have volunteers. It's nice to have an actual boat. We can talk lecture, we can wire stuff in the
Sure.
lab, but to go out and climb up the staircase and do it real time has been a wonderful experience.
Well, and our mission is education, and how wonderful to be able to. That starts right there.
Right here, yeah.
Right there. So, boat got wheeled in thanks to Seattle Yachts.
No, this was North Harbor Diesel
That was North
and
Harbor Diesel.
Seattle Yachts both, because they support what we do as far as education wise. And so if you're thinking about a refit, you're out in the audience here watching this video or at the Seattle Boat Show, we got to say, like, the costs can add up quickly. So just lay days and having a place to work on a boat can be something, especially if you want to be an owner that wants to work on it, because we have only one yard in Anacortes that'll even allow an owner to work on their own boat, because the knuckleheads before him have all made bad decisions and closed all those doors. So so that's a big deal. And then the other thing we have, if you're wanting to do this, and this is part of what I do is research, is I've been keeping track. We have a handful of volunteers that show up. We have owners, Mark and Jennifer, and some of the other crew have been, Grace, Tess have been here, I've been here, everybody. And we're putting in, 50 to 75 hours a week probably. And so if you add that up, hundreds of hours a month and then 5 months, the local rate right now is $3 a minute. Dollar.
Oh, gosh.
It's hard when you break it down that way, but that's what it really is. And so that would add anywhere from $150,000 to $250,000 on top of the boat that you buy and all of the equipment. So if you're looking at project boats, be very careful about it. And even just a good used boat. I mean, a lot of the stuff that we're doing, you can have to do to lots of different boats. And so
Well, and when you're looking at a boat, for instance, you're looking at a used boat and you think it needs to be repowered, and ours did, at least need to be rebuilt, 8,000-hour engine. You think about the cost of the engine, and that's one thing. What you don't typically think about is how you get it in and out, how you hook it up, what do you do, and there's an equal cost of labor.
always.
Yeah.
At a minimum, we tell everybody,
Yeah.
whatever something costs, double or triple it with labor.
Yeah.
For
And that's
sure.
not somebody just, boats are complicated and they have to be done right, or you end up with a mess down the line.
So this boat, thought it was pretty dry. We went through some monsoons and sailing.
Yeah, we kept seeing, there was a little bit of, we thought, condensation in the aft cabin, just above one of the bunks. And a couple of other little minor little drips here and there, but nothing big until
We start taking it apart. And then we had some more rain. And we thought it was the chain plates leaking that we had pulled out, which is something you have to do on any boat that's of this age. And so it had, 12 chain plates, and we replaced 4 of them.
right.
The rest were good. But while doing that, we noticed water coming in. Well, the water was coming from above the chain plate. So
It
we
was,
knew we
yeah.
had to investigate.
It was
And-
coming from above the vinyl overhead, and it was tracking down. It was dripping into the overhead and then migrating out to the
Oh.
side, coming down, into a weird place that,
It was a
took
water feature. It actually,
It
the
was
little
a-
side
it was a-
tray would hold an inch of
Exactly.
water.
It was a
and
water
have a little
feature, but it
waterfall.
was coming out of a Durade box.
Yeah. That was the worst thing we found on the boat that was not done right at the factory.
Right, and this is a balsa cord deck, balsa cord boat, and balsa is a terrific coring material. But if water penetrates that balsa and it's there any length of time, you end up with just mush, and that was what was happening around the Durade boxes.
So lucky though, a couple little spots we had to fix. Although it did ruin the headliner, it was black mold, and the headliner in the main cabin. So the sanitation system had some funky smells when you bought the boat, and they tried to hide it down the road. Not Swiftsure, but previously it was stored in California. And somebody said, oh, if you put an ozone generator in there and let it run, it won't smell funny.
There's a tip.
Yeah, don't put ozone in. It ruins anything that's plastic or vinyl, and it ruined the entire headliner. It turned it all sticky and yellow. So that was unexpected. That's a lot of work to redo the entire headliner.
It was a lot of work, but I'm glad, and we're not done yet. But we're
Not
getting
done yet. We're getting it, but we did add insulation. So we got
Yeah.
balsa core and insulation on the overhead and sides now. So it's going to be much nicer.
And we're replacing the vinyl with solid panels, with wood panels that are painted, all the overhead.
That are removable for
yeah,
service.
You couldn't remove anything. You had to cut it with a knife. So now you can remove all of those panels, get to it.
Much better system.
Oh, much better system, and it looks better too.
So let's get into some of the costs. So you said we had this 8,000 hour engine.
8,000 hour engine.
Or 8,000, yeah.
Yeah,
It
8,000.
motored well. The boat was quiet. It performs. It'll motor at 9 knots. And the thing is, it passed a couple of oil analysis.
Yeah.
It's got great compression and everything, but everything on the outside of it was 30 years old. So we went through and said, well, we took a look at the inside. You knew when you bought it, the transmission needed to be done.
Yep.
So that was $5,000. And Harbor Marine down there in Everett, amazing people. They did a great job. It's an industrial transmission. It's big. They said it'll go at least another 8,000 hours.
Yeah.
So, but you get a set of injectors and you get the, Yanmar parts are expensive. So all of a sudden you got thousands of dollars to get gaskets and O-rings and water pumps
Sure.
and whatever. Exhaust. This didn't even really include the exhaust modifications. We forgot that in there. So that was another couple $1,000s. So we put 15,000 plus into the propulsion. But still, that's, a fraction of what a new engine would cost.
Yeah, it's virtually new. All the all the bolt-on pieces are new or rebuilt. You scoped everything about the engine, compression test, leak down test, everything. It was
Still
all
has-
within spec.
Oh, absolutely. Looked like new inside.
Yeah.
So we're in good shape with the engine. The rig, so there's Seattle Yachts. They actually hauled the boat for us and helped with graphics. But the big thing is in the crane to have to take 2 masts off. And Northwest Rigging, local Anacortes company, they're a big shout out. They're amazing to work with and really, really good. But
Well, again, it's 30-year-old rigging
yeah,
that had never been replaced. So there was some crevice corrosion in some of the switch
Actually-
fittings.
from the deck, I thought it looked pretty good.
Yeah, I thought it looked really good.
Yeah,
It
turns out I was wrong.
Well, and again, when there's the argument, okay, there's a little crevice corrosion in a few places. Maybe you want to live with that if you're just sailing around here. But once we get in the Northwest Passage, or we're in Halifax, or we're at Cape Horn,
I don't want to be worried.
you start
questioning.
making other decisions. So,
Well, if the rig comes down, you can hurt people or kill people, and we don't want that.
oh yeah. Besides that, it just ruins your day.
Yeah.
So all the running rig, all the standing rigging is in fact Northwest Rigging is doing it all right now as we speak.
Almost done.
An inspection of the mast. There was some damage to the sail track, so the sail track is being replaced with different cars.
New boom,
New,
like you mentioned earlier, so we can reef from the
we
cockpit.
can reef from the cockpit, and it's mid-boom sheeting now instead of end-boom sheeting, and that makes a huge difference in how the cockpit layout and how it functions. So no longer
And safer again.
exactly, and it's a better option. Roller furling, Harkin roller furling has been rebuilt, looked at. It's all fine, and the mizzen mast doubles as a crane, as a matter of fact, for lifting the dinghy or people or anything else in and out of the water.
Equipment, ROVs, who knows what we're going to lift with it.
Yeah.
So,
Science stuff gets mounted on that main mast, so there's some modifications.
yeah, we're meeting with Applied Physics Lab right after the boat show. They're going to bring up all the equipment that we need to put on the mast
Exactly.
for research. But, the rigging shop I said, give me a solid number so we can tell people. And they said, something to this extent, we're looking at 70 to 80,000
Yeah.
at a minimum,
Yeah.
right? And so because the masts were both fine and stuff like that. So a little bit of extra cost for the mizzen because there's a little extra rigging, but it's mostly fittings, because it's a shorter rig. And so it all comes out in the wash pretty much, I think. The sails,
Well, the sails are pretty good actually. The main had been, I think it was mid to late 90s. The previous owner had a main and a jib done. There is an asymmetrical spinnaker. This is the one we had on Ocean Watch.
Yeah.
And we really want to have one of those like that, because that makes a statement when you're coming into anywhere. People know what this is. They can see what it is we're trying to do. And we'd like to find another one. We have to find funding for it.
Funding. I'd like to have somebody sponsor that for the trip. That'd be awesome.
Well, it really is the statement piece. And I can remember when we took that picture with Ocean Watch, we had left Seattle on the start of the circumnavigation, and the first time we put that up was coming into Juneau. So we got a photographer in a boat, and we're sailing up the channel and put it up. But we used it a lot after that, and we actually got it up at Cape Horn. So
yeah, you're the only person I've talked to that's ever put a spinnaker up around Cape Horn.
yeah, and that seemed insane even to me. But
who does that?
But we had a little easterly breeze that just came out of nowhere, and the spinnaker had been packed away for weeks. And I said to the crew, I said, "Get the kite up, let's go." And they all looked at me like I really had lost my mind. But we did. We got to sail around Cape Horn the wrong way with that spinnaker up. And we have pictures from a little cruise ship that happened to be there showing that.
It's going to be great. And this year, this trip will have drones. They'll have better footage.
And I
So
think, Mike, that spinnaker, your face on the end of that spinnaker would be just yeah. We have to find a way to get that funded, because that's a statement piece.
But on the safety side of things, with that new inner forestay, right?
Right.
And
So the boat came with the head stay, obviously, and then it had a Solent rig, so it had an inside stay, a stay inside that was removable just behind the roller furling for a light air code 0, a hank on, anything, but light air stuff. So it didn't have it's not a cutter rig, it didn't have a staysail stay or someplace to put a storm jib. So we've just fitted that. In fact, just finished it today.
exactly. So
Put a tang on the deck and reinforcement. There's another exit block on the mast. So now, we can run up a storm jib, we can run up a little staysail.
when you had a third reef add to the main, so when
Yeah,
it's going to blow like stink, we can have a deeply reefed main and that little tiny sail up front. The
Little tiny
boat should
sail.
balance and still
Exactly.
sail beautifully.
Exactly. So, you don't have to take too much sail down, because then you're just going to wobble all over the place. So it's terrific.
All right. Well, I don't have the total cost for electrical yet. And part of that for this talk is difficult because we've got two complete systems. So we did keep the existing boat, had a nice electrical system, good panels and stuff like that. But, we serviced the electric winches, the windlass, all that kind of stuff. But the inverter was old and it was humming. So we're putting in a new inverter. We did have to do the new generator. We're adding 400 watts of solar for those light leaf panels. I like those a lot. There's a boat that went through the Northwest Passage and strong winds and had zero issues with them. And we could fold them up and down. We're going to put the Watt and C on the back to get some hydro energy when we're sailing. All of that stuff adds up. We are getting sponsored by Dragonfly Energy for the science side of the house, because we have computers that need to upload data all the time and or store, and our scientific equipment can't go down. So we're going to have a second system with some of those new Game Changer Battleborn batteries and another Victron inverter and stuff. So that's going to be really nice to power the drone that I talked about. And we have the underwater submersible that goes down and looks at the kelp for research. And so the Starlink, we're going to just need a ton of energy on this boat. And so I'll do a full-on electrical system breakdown in the future. But I put a few things there for cost. So if you're refitting a boat like we are, you're going to want to add some of this stuff normally.
Yeah, and most people would want to have, redundant electrical systems so that you're not dependent on, diesel fuel, because some places you're just not going to get it very easily. And people like to communicate. And with the communication stuff today, and for our needs, education-wise and science-wise, we've got to be able to communicate.
Yeah, so lots of energy. And then, of course, the additional costs. We did talk about that bow thruster wasn't cheap. Would have been easier if we'd have just taken a canoe, probably.
Well, some people have.
I know they have, see? I don't think it's quite big enough for all of us, though. But yeah, we're putting a Spectra water maker on, donated by a former staff here at Skagit and my good friend Woody. But we're, a new dinghy, some chocks, davits, for not offshore, spare parts, those costs we haven't documented yet, but we will. And so,
Yeah, for those of you who are going through a refit or just thinking about an expedition, spend a good amount of time on your spare parts list.
yeah,
Because it really is. I mean, the cost of flying something in to someplace that isn't accessible is really high.
Really high. And so, if you're going to refit a boat, you're looking at used boats, I think it's worthwhile to put together a spreadsheet. You've got a bunch of cost and labor here, but gather that all together and take a good hard look at it. And sometimes it makes more sense to buy a boat that's ready to go, that doesn't have all the unknowns. It's going to be a lot more money, but you just never know. So,
yeah. Think about how you're going to use it.
we'll definitely also document up spare parts that we take and stuff in one of our videos on this channel and give folks an idea. I know that you and Jennifer took the boat apart and inventoried everything that we had and what cupboard it was in, and we're going to need to do that again because we took it all out.
Which now no longer in that cupboard.
Yeah.
The cupboard doesn't exist, so we have to do it again.
We have to do that again. And then for us, we've got the whole cost of the expedition. So if you're interested in helping us out, we got the website, and which we'll have in the show notes. We've got all of our social media. We got a booth at the Seattle Boat Show. You can come and see us.
And we want, there are big pieces of this. The education side, we've partnered with an organization called Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. And they get education videos into schools, 1.5 million kids globally. And the lesson plans are there. The excitement is there.
We're going to do virtual lessons.
Yeah, virtual lessons. Every week we'll put out a lesson. We have a young scientist on board. Social media crew is on board. So there's stuff coming out every day. So
just follow us along if you're interested. It's going to be a great expedition. But now you know why we picked that boat, why they picked the boat, why I got involved to help fix it up, and some of the cost. That boat's going in the water end of February, and we'll shoot some videos of us driving it around.
End of February, and May 3rd is the departure day from Anacortes, Washington.
That's right. It's going to be.
It'll be a party. Be there.
That's right. Thanks for watching, everyone.
Thank you.